Shirley here with Sirius Talis Moon. This is Jupiter Hour. And shout out to Dashcam Roadshow. I've been watching Iceland travel videos, and I have to say, all of this volcanic soil does make me feel at home. Maybe I was a little fairy girl that was born there in my soul. And I need to check that on an astrocartography level. Um, And you know what? We might even try to do that in this episode. Moon is 15 degrees Capricorn in the Prepper's Decan of Capricorn, ruled by Saturn, ascendant approaching galactic center, midheaven 9 degrees Libra. Mercury and Venus are about to have the kiss of death. Do they meet on the 22nd degree or something? I need to check that. When does Venus conjunct Mercury? Um, when does Venus conjunct Mercury? Yes, I said what I said on the 22. This happens November 25. Beta per se is going to be minima. Falcon is going to be some name list. Cold case Epstein. Um, I don't have an engine. So, yeah, cold case Epstein. Let's take a look at Iceland's natal chart. And then I want to do a little parents. Well, just the Reykjavik from the 1700, and then there is Iceland. Ascendant Uranus. Uranus Procyon. So right now Jupiter is conjoining the Uranus of the 1700 Reykjavik chart. Midheaven on conjoining Deneb Algedi. Pluto and Saturn conjoining in Aquarius. Rahu in Capricorn, end of Capricorn. Sol in Leo. Jupiterus. And let's take a look at the most recent chart. I'll take a look at the news later. Some weird energy. Yesterday, I don't know why. I mean, Black Moon Lilith is approaching the opposition with Uranus. So, of course, there's a discussion in the air. There's a big transformation regarding values in the world. I see it. Very big transformation, and I guess it works differently for different people. Or not. It can be even that not. People are beginning to get to the core of the issue of many things. Yeah, that's. We'll see what will be when Venus conjoins. Of course, Black Moon Lilith. And this more recent chart is with Moon in Scorpio, Pluto in Cancer, Jupiter in Cancer. So this is Jupiter return for Iceland. So this year going to be the back and forth of the Jupiter return for Iceland. Saturn in Leo, Uranus on Deneb Algedi. Uranus Deneb Algedi. Okay. um, Rahu, Venus, Sol in Sag next to Aldebaran, next to Antares. Aldebaran is 180 from there in Gemini. Midheaven, 4 degrees Gemini. Lilith, Libra. Ascendant, Virgo, 14 degrees. With Mercury, 29 degrees Sagittarius. Mercury, Ascendant, ruler in Mula Nakshatra in the 4th house. And indeed, Iceland does have wealth. Okay? The volcanoes are also vessels that pop minerals. That's okay. So that's the big wealth of Iceland. And I don't know, for me, watching the videos and seeing that volcanic soil felt very welcoming. Can we please not do it right now? Okay. Okay. No, you don't, but it's just very... Okay. I try to clean and fix my room, which usually ends up... It's like holistic medicine. It gets more messy before it gets... At first you throw everything and clean all the places where that haven't seen any wet towel in a while. Then the entire place looks like a mess. Um, but the funny thing that you had to remove a suitcase. um, so here is, now I want to do something um, I want to do something regarding astrocartography. Now this is absolutely not... here is something that I do find useful. Relocation chart calculator. Now, even if you're not relocating to any place, knowing I think it would, I hope it would show it like that. I would need the astrocartography map. No, that's not the way there. And there is an issue of the lines, okay, in the astrocartography, and the parents, and all of them affect all of them affect the experience in a different location, and it can be several hours from one place to another. Is already a different parent, and that affects the experience. Okay. This is the AstroSeek version of it. And we can look at Iceland, which is getting... Where is it? So this is Reykjavik. And if I just pop, it would show me that I would be ruled by Sagittarius ascendant and Scorpio midheaven around Reykjavik. And if I pop it a little further, I see that this would be around the lines of Venus and Pluto. which in my chart are in a hard aspect. So for me, that would be quite intense. If I go more towards Reykjavik, I go to the IC, and this is why I felt at home around, because, okay, IC is our home. And that's why I saw the area, and I see the volcanic soil, and I feel at home. And I said I feel like I was born there. Okay, as a child, like I was born there. And indeed, the area from Reykjavik uh, northwest is basically closer to my Mercury, and not to my Mercury, to my Mercury IC. Okay, and I should really check out that area because I felt at home there, and it brings me to the energies of home, particularly with the volcanic soul, which I'll need to understand what it means for me. But see how the IC in a chart is basically um, the home environment, and a place that is so remote. Okay, I was physically born in central Israel, so place that is so remote brings me to my home and upbringing, because it sits astrocartographically on my IC, and Mercury, which is ruler of my 4th and 7th house. And without seeing the astrocartography, I was just like, I see the volcanic soil and I feel at home. Um, and this is where from Reykjavik northwest would be where it would be closer to my IC. To the east, it would be on my Venus IC and Pluto midheaven. So Mercury and Venus have different qualities. Mercury is good for communication, technology, even tending to Sedna topics, um, while Venus is good for connection, art. Okay, Pluto is great for transformation. Here with the MC, career transformation, but I have Pluto and Venus in hard aspect, so that direction would be probably more challenging for people that have Venus sextile or Venus trine Pluto. That can be actually a good combination. Um, and this goes all the way here. Do we have? We don't have like a Google map of that. Then there is the parents, and here is where I'm just testing the soil, because let's try to see the lunar nodes. So for me, Rahu is with the IC, and indeed it's in my 4th house, and that goes through. Yeah, that's very interesting. It's around Berlin, Stockholm. If we go up north, Hamburg. No, Hamburg is too far from that. Vienna, Prague. That means that those lands, as I mature into my Rahu, are going to become more prevalent, or that fated events in those are going to affect my home. For example, when I was homeless in Netherlands, I heard about the Swedes having all the homes in Amsterdam. I don't know if it's true or not, but that would be the way Sweden, which is closer to my Rahu and IC, would affect my home. Okay, um, and that is, and indeed, it was eclipses with Rahu in my fourth house when I was in Netherlands. So the fact that it showed up in the fourth house shows the importance of that country. Even though I was born in Israel and grew up with my Israeli mom, it shows how when the eclipses were with Rahu in my home, it sent me back to Netherlands where my parents met. Um, and there, the housing issue was, I was told that the Swedes owned the estates in Amsterdam. So the effect of Sweden on my home and I see as the eclipses were in my fourth house. Okay. And by the way, it shows up as something that was um, related to uh, hometown by, or home country by, the man who was married to my mom. Okay. And his father not by biology. Okay. So this is important for people who read charts. Okay. Issues regarding the father or mother, they may show for um, even my case, which is kind of unusual case because I grew up with one parent, but it shows the country of the father, even though it was not his sperm. Okay, um, and events regarding that country happened when Rao was in my fourth house, and I was physically okay, relocated for a while to my father's country. Um, which tells me that the events that take place in 2030 might take place for me also in Netherlands, which means the bombing of the digital slavery camps, the 15-minute cities that I talked about previously, and that Sweden can play a role in that. Maybe Sweden bombs the place, I don't know, or is invested in that, and that place bombed. I really don't know, but they can be a quarter ranch by 2030, and I don't mean just the weather. And then we have Norway, northern Norway, also affecting that area. Interesting. Uranus can also be interesting as it will enter my fourth house, which can cause relocation. And Uranus is with my midheaven. This moves the line a little bit more to the east. Warsaw. That's kind of scary. Can we say that our family, our lineage has already been there? um, Budapest. Uranus. Again, northern Norway. Northeast Sweden. And this also coincides geographically with uh, the revolutionary timelines. Okay, so when Uranus goes through my fourth, that line will probably show up as well as affecting my life. What's more is Chiron. I can put it to Chiron. For example, before I escaped to Netherlands, escaped violence. It's just there was no housing situation, and I looked at locations that are to do with my Chiron, because that was good for me to get acquainted with the energy, to heal certain things, and this moves the line further to the west. Chiron I see, because I have it in the fourth house. Bern, Milano, Cologne. 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 I remember Cologne very favorably. Um, Further to Norway. So those would be areas where I would be tending to. And I remember when I talked about the Nordic, and I'm like, why do I feel more at home and belonging around certain Nordic people, even though I was born in the Middle East? It's because the line of my IC goes through the Nordic countries. Now I'm gonna get slacked for it because I don't remember which is considered Nordic and which is not. But and also the wounds around my relations is particularly that area of Norway and Denmark. But my memory of Denmark, I was traveling with my mom and we were sitting at the restaurant and my mother she was just looking around. There's like, there are Germans, Danes, and me and my daughter. Germans, Danes, and me and my daughter. And nothing. That was just the thought that she had in mind, and we were just thinking, sitting there like two aliens, drinking coffee that costs probably more than the gold. And then they had a Coca-Cola bottle in the supermarket that was costing something like the equivalent of $5 today. But that was in 2007 or something. Really nice. We had to. It was winter. There were a lot of winds, so we had to consider our budget and and go back south to northern Germany. Um, but to escape the ice, we traveled to Netherlands, and to escape the wind, we traveled to Germany. Um, yes, so that was really pleasant feeling. Even though there's a wound there, there was something curative about this. I don't know how to explain that. Um, and indeed, people with Chiron in the fourth house can feel that there is something emotionally overwhelming about their home. And that's indeed my feeling with both Netherlands and Nordic countries. I remember when, in fact, after 2017, I remember I was watching just travel videos in Norway and those truck drivers that put the camera and so on, and that was calming. Now I understand that I was tending to my Chiron, and so those areas are for people that want to heal certain things. Now I'm in my. Now there is. Let's do all. Let's do North Node because that's the most relevant. So lunar nodes. Nay, lunar nodes. And gonna work on the parent line. Right now, let's do Sun. What's that? Lunar nodes, lunar nodes. Okay, so the meeting of my lunar nodes and the lunar nodes parent, or Rahu parent, would be. Yes, it's Arctic. But what's that area? I know, I'm looking at this too. Probably so cold. It's Titanic line. It looks like Titanic line. And that would be Greenland. This is why Inuit are coming for me so much with Rahu. It's not just Sedna. I actually have it in my chart. And look at this area around Norway. What's happening in Norway? Okay, if I go to my North Node Paran, it goes all the way through the north. The North Polar Circle. And you know what's the funny thing? I grew up in Israel. If the temperature goes a little bit below 25, I need to put on a sweater. My bones begin to dance. I don't have sisu. Um, and and yet I have been so wise drawn to the Nordic countries, um, for reasons that I don't have explanation for. I mean, of course, Alaska is one of the most beautiful areas to travel and so on. I don't know how to travel. um, but the meeting of the IC node and the North node are particularly in this northeast Norway. And this is about my Rahu maturation. You know, it's funny. Where's Lapland? I don't. We need a map. No, this is Finland. But this says. Because. Wait a second. Oh gosh. But this is. The meeting is around. And it's the maritime borders of. I don't know if borders, the maritime region of that area, which is beyond weird to me. Let's see the um, Paran of Chiron, which is what's in my, and that's probably going to be quite adjacent. It is quite adjacent. Okay, because those are all in my fourth house. No, this is lunar node. I need Chiron. Hello. No functioning today. No, it just brings me back to the lunar nodes. I need Chiron. Okay, Gemini. Mercury is retrograde. But basically, this is more or less, I guess, how they work with the parents. Not a professional astrocartographer, um, but it shows the meeting of the lines that connect with our natal chart and the location. And this means that on those locations, certain topics would be more accentuated. For example, if we leave out the parents and we say any planet, all planets, um, we could see that, let's say, Palestine is closer to my Neptune midheaven. And indeed, I'm in my Neptune square. Okay, the line goes through um, uh, Jordan and um, Lebanon and Turkey. Uh, east to St. Petersburg, closer to Moscow, and now I'm in my Neptune square with midheaven. And where is Syria? I'm not responsible for that map, okay? um, but this is indeed my Neptune square, and around my Neptune square I am around this line, but also um, Netherlands would be in between my midheaven Mars and my Uranus midheaven, and indeed was quite rebellious, unexpected, and Uranus played a great role. Saturn was squaring Uranus from my 12th house. Uranus played a great role. For example, if I was seeing parts of Amsterdam, and the theme of rebellion played a great role. And Uranus has it going a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there, then they all connect together. Mars rules my 9th house, but this would be a very wide spectrum of nearly entire Europe, east and west. Only in Paris it would switch lines, and then it's closer to, if I follow the curved lines, to the Moon and Jupiter lines. And Moon has to do with motherland, also with housing and self-nourishment. And I got a lot of things, both Jupiter and Moon, have to do with fertility. Got a lot of things about natural birthing, but also the cloning project regarding those areas. But this is true. And when Jupiter was in Pisces, which is in my 1st house, I was indeed in Netherlands. Yes, so and the MC midheaven Uranus goes through again northern Norway, Sweden, and of course Warsaw, or or Windhoek, or Cape Town. Um, so, but I must not forget that the IC here have IC with Sun closer to Madrid, but it's next to midheaven and Saturn. IC with Venus, IC with Mercury is more around Iceland, Greenland. It's interesting. um, this is very interesting. IC with Jupiter, Canada. IC Neptune, and IC Uranus. IC Moon, and I see Pluto. And I'm approaching the end of my Pluto square. So Neptune right now, Uranus, my Uranus opposition. This Uranus, let's see. If we follow the line, goes through South America, so Atlanta, Ottawa, Greenland, and Finland. There it's with the Neptune midheaven. Talk a lot about housing first. And we have all kinds of interesting lines here. But those give us a general view, general astrocartography view of which topics will come up. And we can also see, if we know astrology a little bit, of when will those topics come up. For example, the IC line going through the Nordic countries, coming up when I have big transits to my fourth house. And the Pluto midheaven, again Iceland. Granted, didn't see anything coming up with the car. And the Pluto line. Arctic, simply anything north. And Denver, Salt Lake City, Utah. And this is Pluto. And I've been tending to what? The Mormons? Pluto is the taboo topics. And Salt Lake City is the Mormons and the minerals. Mormons and minerals. And that's definitely something that came up around my Pluto square. Neptune right now is more the Arctic, Nordic countries. Moscow, Russia. Well, because it's the Saturn Neptune, and I tend to the infrastructure of like the things that happen in Russia. Why Finland works with NATO and not with Russia, and so on and so forth. So those things come up. Um, and again Arctic, Neptune, DC, going through South America. That didn't come up for me. And that would again be uh, Finland and Russia. It's exactly the topics that I'm talking about. And Neptune also rules psychiatry, so the housing first, and intelligence. So the housing first as a method to treat what people thought of as psychosis or schizophrenia, in order to receive cohesive Jupiter intelligence information and beat, something like the KGB. This is exactly the topic I've been talking about in my Neptune square. And that as a strategic intelligence, and for me, ninth house has to do with Scorpio, Pluto, Saturn, 22 Mars, which means being basically a life or death issues that come up, and one thing is at war, and this is how important is sexual sovereignty to receive cohesive information, um, and not to get adjacent countries working with other countries. And Finland is in a position where it has to beat both NATO and Russia intelligence-wise, and this is why housing first and open dialogue, which is a method to treat schizophrenia without castration, without, okay, it doesn't mean that they don't do these harms, but there is open dialogue without castration, without forced drugs and all kind of dumb fuckery, with belief in the patient, because they know that all these cuckoo people are just people that were raped and ritually abused and targeted by one or another intelligence. And Finland, as a small country, cannot sleep on the intelligence advantage that has to beat both the East and the West. What do you do with the people that don't have that much sisu? You house them, you let them be, and then you prevent invasion. Um, when Finland didn't do that, they had a lot of problems with the Russians. A lot of problems. And when they castrated patients, like Sweden, they had a lot of problems with the Russians. When they started doing housing first and open dialogue, they became a central power that NATO would be vying to, and Putin wouldn't be messing with too much. Before they did that, they had to work with the Nazis. And that was not a pleasant. Okay, it was. They preferred the Nazis to Stalin, but. And one has to ponder about it, especially since the Bolshevik Revolution was funded by an oil company named Rockefeller. The schools of the Bolsheviks that were also behind the secret projects, the classified projects funding or funneling of public money to classified projects that was behind the blacklisting of commies in the US. Same oil company. Um, but we'd have to ask the Alianis, why do they call fiat money fiat? Because they came up with Fiat Company as an Italian wealth family. Um, History Meets Finance channel has an episode about that, or Finance Meets History. So indeed, at Neptune time, bingo. That's exactly the topic that comes up. Now I'm about to go into my Uranus opposition, okay? Like a good elderly person in their 40s, and behave like a teenager, very likely. Uh, it's we have, I think we peak at 35, and then we go down the age, down the age psychologically as we go up the calendaric age. People in their 60s hate me right now. But why? I mean, it explains why they're toddlers. Um, anyway, tend to your inner child. Uh, Avoid being involved in extortion cults. And So now the revolutionary line is coming up. Is that Libya there? Muammar Gaddafi, but no Viagra rapes. Now his son came back. Um, Again, Warsaw, the rebel of the ghetto. Uh, Budapest, Tirana, Tirana, and Sweden, northern Norway, which I believe my prediction, because the North Node and the Chiron are so adjacent to that area, then I believe it's northern Sweden, northern Norway, that's gonna come up around my Uranus opposition. Okay, let's go. And this is why, because of Rahu, okay, as we're approaching our 40s, we're approaching our Rahu. Because my Rahu line is closer to the north, the Rahu Paran is closer to the north than, let's say, to Africa, I get the Nordic countries, while other people would get Africa, for example, or the Middle East. So, um, so Uranus is going to be a big deal. And Uranus is also to northern Canada. And indeed, the person that tackled protecting the off-grid land is coming from Canada. I don't know where from, but this is Antarctica. No, I'm. Yes, the joke about academic people being imbecile is absolutely in place here. All puns intended. What can I say? I mean, if I would travel to all these places and it would be safe and free, and so on and so forth, then I would know the map better. Now Uranus, DC line, and again it's going to merge into this northern Norway, northern Sweden. Norway, Sweden, northeast Norway, northeast Sweden. And I mean IKEA a lot. And they have these espresso biscuits that are shaped like flowers. And I just thought the simple biscuits, I'll drink them with the tea. My mom was like, "Oh, you want some biscuits?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah, have some." Then I taste one, and I'm like, "Oh, it's tasty. That's actually good. That's actually way better than I thought." So better than the Lotus they have. All my love to Lotus, but the Lotus ones are too sweet. Where's China? There's the lovely lady that teaches Chinese. I think she does this when Chinese is your second language videos. So there is the not too sweet as being a compliment in China for a dessert. And that's so relatable. Not to Greek people. I, uh, anyway, where is... Here is Pyongyang. What line goes through there? Jupiter, DC. And the moon, I see. Um, you gotta know where is Pyongyang in your astrocartography chart. By the way, when I was in Netherlands, I tried to channel um, some quite important person that I had no idea who he was back then. And the first thing I received was, "This country is North Korea," about Netherlands. um, yes. It's too bad we cannot telepathically quote people. That would be an incriminating one I received right now. Yes. I had a joke about the "you won't silence me" bunch of politicians. um, but it is. But Jupiter moon line also crosses through my Netherlands, and when I was in Netherlands, I heard this country is North Korea. The levels of how much it is not funny versus how much I laugh about that. And it meets in northern Russia. Now, where does Russia turn into China? We have all those names that begin to be Chinese, and I don't know where is it, because this is Mongolia. China on my Neptune line. This is why I talk about Mongolia and China. And this is Beijing, Hong Kong, Taipei, Manila. That's not, of course, it's not China already. But that also comes up. Australia, Melbourne. Actually, Brisbane also came for me around. What transit was I having? It was before my Pluto square. Neptune was going through my ascendant. I was co-present with Jupiter. And indeed, I talk a lot about the sky that punishes the land. I know all this Neptune type of spiritual, holistic view. The sky that punishes the land loses mandate of the heaven. So Neptune DC, be it Mao with the people, Mongolia, but then it meets around Russia, Finland. The Russia-Finland borders is exactly what we talked about that. And yeah, all the way through South America. The Brazilians, but it's not supposed to show up like that. That's not. Don't tell me that the Brazilians is showing up like that. Oh my God. Buenos Aires, Argentina. Oh, Argentina, because all the Nazis went there. My grandmother escaped to Cuba, and then at 6 she went to Israel.